Welcome, welcome, everybody. I can't not keep track of the days as this is our last night of a guest. So we are officially at day 11 of the 12 days of Christmas. I just want to thank everybody, as always, every night for being here live. For those of you watching the recording, maybe you're even watching this after it's over, but that's great. That's what it is all about. So I want to thank everybody for being with us in whatever form or fashion. And hopefully you're enjoying all of the content that we've had for you this year for TDOC 24/25. With that, I also want to thank everybody for, again, continuing to share your enthusiasm for the program. Things that you've enjoyed in particular is always nice to hear. So the feedback has been wonderful. And I can't thank you enough for that. I also want to start off as well by saying thank you to everybody for the outpouring of messages, text messages, DMs for my Miss Pansy. I thank you so much for hanging in with me last night. I texted several people and said, I hope I wasn't like a complete hot mess, but it was just so important for me to be there still for everybody. And sometimes it's hard, right, to show that side of things, and equally might have been hard for some people to watch. But I really thank you. It gave me something to do for a couple of those hours. And she really was the most amazing pig. A lot of you don't know her in the way that so many others know her because, of course, she slowed down in the later years. So I'm definitely going to take some opportunity to post some pictures. And what's really been cool is like people that used to work for me years ago, people I haven't heard from in so long, are reaching out to me about her and, sharing some stories and things like that. So who would have known a pig would make such an impression? But she did, and she was super super special. So I thank you. Today's a little bit better, so I thank everybody for the well wishes. I've already said my red face tonight is not about the crying; it's about the fact that my husband was nice enough to put the stove on, so I'm now sweltering over here, sitting right next to the stove. So a little change of pace, same face, different reason. So, with that, guys, I want to make sure right off the start that we just go over some of our housekeeping things because also this is sort of the last night. I mean, technically, you have until tomorrow, maybe by like 4 or 5 p.m. I mean, here's the thing. If you throw in a last minute order to get more tickets in for TDOC, if I get it in time, great. If not, Jill's here till 4. So I feel like that's kind of our cap because, of course, we're doing this the old fashioned way and everybody's name goes on a ticket and that just goes in a big bowl. And we're just going to be drawing one at random. So it's maybe by my choice of if I get the order in enough time to be able to write and put the ticket in. Regardless, it's also just about supporting this whole program, everything we do here on the farm. I do appreciate all of that and supporting the makers that have been our guests throughout this time for TDOC as well. Many of them have given me feedback and many thanks for people following them, perhaps placing some orders. So all of it is just so kind of all of you. So, uh, Cotswold class is closed. So those of you that have signed up, I look forward to seeing you next Wednesday. So just when I think Zoom's going to be over on Monday night, I'll be zooming again on Wednesday. So, and actually, I think I'm zooming again on Thursday because is that, Erin, the first? I believe that's the first 4-hour lecture series for Wild Fibers with Linda Courtwright. I know she was working on the format today because her and I were chatting, and I feel like on my calendar I was doing Zooming for 2 nights in a row next week in addition to Monday. So I'm not sure. Maybe drop that in the chat and let me know, Erin, just to confirm if you happen to have it. So regardless, that's another thing for the lecture series with Linda Courtwright of Wild Fibers. If you've not signed on, you still have time to do that. And remember, those are recorded. So we have up to a week after the recording, after the actual live, for you to be able to take advantage of it. And then that will go away. So really, if you're not available for the actual night of, there's kind of no reason to not jump on. And if you sign up for all four, essentially, instead of it being $60, I think it's 35. Yeah, it's 35. So a great savings to just say, hey, get on all of these, watch them at your leisure, of course. So that will stay open, actually, the registration for it until it actually happens. But at the same time, if you want to get those tickets in for TDOC, you want to get in on it now. I want to also remind everybody just about Vogue Knitting Live coming up. So hopefully, I'm going to be seeing some of you in person, perhaps after spending all this time together. So that'll be wonderful. Drop me a DM. Let me know if I'm going to be seeing you at Vogue Knitting Live in New York City. So as soon as I get done with all of this, we are just like full steam ahead for getting ready for that show, which is always a big one and always a really fun one to be able to see so many people, of course, in person. So definitely looking forward to that. Beth NG, you're asking where is the pattern for the cowl? So if you have ordered fingering weight yarn from us. So one of the other things too, let me just bring that up in terms of also reminding you of different things that we've had that have been dropped throughout this week. So we were joined by Crystal Hyatt from Factory Girl Designs, and she made a gorgeous cowl, the Black Moon cowl, utilizing a yarn that I sent to her called Moon Shadow. Now that is fingering weight. You need a total of 400 yards. There's lots of different choices in our fingering weight section. Maybe not all of them are 400 yard skeins, so you just need to take a look at that. If you happen to purchase the yarn from me and let us know you're interested in it, we will gift you that pattern. And then of course we compensate Crystal for that. Now on the other hand, you can go to Crystal's Ravelry and you can just purchase the pattern from her as well. So either way, you're supporting both of us in this little collaboration that we did. So that is how that works, Beth NG. Also, we had another drop from Shanna with Lamstring Yarns. So I know everybody really enjoyed her program, as did I. I do want to let you know that the Peconic Bay is sold out. Forge River is super close to selling out. And the rest of them, there are still skeins left. So if you did not get in on that, I don't remember the exact counts of what's there, but if you didn't get in on that, you still have an opportunity to, if you like, to be able to also get some more tickets for TDOC Keepsake Basket. But if you missed that program, definitely go back and take a look because it was just a really insightful time with her that also I shared just gave me a really much more of a greater appreciation of not only what she does but the whole dye process and all of it that goes into that. Last night of course we were with Danny from Amber and Oak, so remember we dropped a new code, candles. I'm suggesting that you use it all caps because I'm not sure if it's cap sensitive, and that gets you 10% off either of our candles that we have available. And thank you so much to everybody for helping me to sniff test and be part of the development of our new spring candle. So also anybody who has ordered candles during this time, you are going to be receiving a special discount code when our spring candle is actually available. What else did we do? Oh, let's see. Oh, the fourth annual Life in Rainbows Knit Along. Honestly, guys, I think we're already up to about 30 of you that have already signed on, which is absolutely amazing. So thank you for that. This was our soft launch. The actual launch will be the weekend for Vogue Knitting Live, so then you will see the actual piece. And remember, it's both a sweater and a cowl, and that's color work. So right now, for the $75, not only does it get you into 7 tickets for the TDOC basket, but that is also going to get you into a sort of private shopping on Zoom with Kimberly and I, because I'm picking up that yarn on Friday. So I am thinking that probably on Tuesday night, I will be looking to do something like that for those of you that have jumped in already on the knit along to try to give you first crack. I'm not totally sure about that yet. I mean, I think it might even be the following week, just depending. So just keep an eye out. But anyway, basically, if you're on board for that, we'll get you all of that info, but we're excited. This actually, I'm wearing the Sheridan shawl, which was our second annual project. And this is actually in the Prosecco, which was a Rambouillet blend that I did special for Kimberly. So thought I would wear that in honor of that. So there's been a lot this week, guys. And I thank you for being along for the ride for all of it. I think that's everything that I wanted to just kind of let everybody know about off the top, because really, once I get rolling into the program, I kind of hate to circle back. Actually, I forgot one thing. Don't forget, you still also have your TDOC 2450 code. Now, that'll actually be good through Monday evening, midnight. You're welcome to utilize it. But again, the faster you utilize it to get in those tickets for the TDOC keepsake gift basket will be key. But just wanted to remind you guys about that as well. So, with that, I think really let's kind of kick off. Now, remember, I've gone through day after day after day of all of the things that are part of this keepsake basket. So I think before we even introduce our guest officially, I'm not going to run through this whole basket. If you don't know by now what's in this basket, I don't know, go watch a recording. There's so many great things. But this is also, well, this will be the last edition, this amazing project bag from Sarah with cute little colorful sheep all over it. I'll have her talk a little bit more about it once we get into the meat and potato of things. But Sarah always is generously donating bags for our open house events, different things that we do. So I thank you for that. And that was one of the reasons why I decided to reach out. I mean, actually, I think maybe I'd reached out one other time, and then sometimes things get lost in the sauce. But as I was looking at just trying to create a well-rounded platform for you guys this evening, Sarah was one person that I thought of because I really am always in awe of her beautiful bags, but also all of the other stuff that she does. So I think tonight is going to be interesting, as they all are, because at least from my perspective, again, I don't really know that much about Sarah. We've had a chance to meet in person when I go to the Ohio State Fair Llama Show. So she has come there to meet me and meet some of the llamas that were at the show. But really, aside from just some of the things that I know she does, I don't even know if this is what she does full time. So I am looking forward to this. So, Sarah, I know you've been on board with some of the other TDOC guests. So, as I start them all, again, if you were somewhere and you were introducing yourself to somebody, because that famous age old question of, like, oh, what do you do? So, what do you say? Wait. How did we get muted again? That was my fault. There we go.
That was me, sorry. If you hear a psychotic cat, she's okay, I promise. We have a new cat, Bengal cat in the house, and she's currently locked up because she runs a mess and terrorizes everybody when she's out of her room. So she's meowing and freaking out back there. So if you hear her, I promise she is fine.
Well, I mean, we'll have to talk more about that, because if you're saying a new Bengal cat, does that mean you have others?
We do have another one, yes. And then we have I guess I'd call it our dumpster kitty because the universe provides dumpster kitties to all of us. So we have one of those as well, little Zoe.
Oh, now if I remember, I mean, this is, of course, here we go. But the Bengal cats, are they? I feel like they're very unusual in a sense, right? In terms of the way that they look. Are they striped or not striped?
So you can have a marble pattern or leopard spots. And they are one of the few domestic cats that still have a wild cat look.
Okay.
So they still have like the front legs versus the back legs. There's a difference there. And they very much have a wild look about them. So the two I have spots.
We can't get one? You can't find one? Can you go get one?
Well, I'm friends with the breeder. She does an amazing job.
No,
If you
no, I mean yours.
Oh, one of
Yours.
mine.
Yeah,
I'll see if I can get the new one. No
please.
promises.
I'm like, come on, now we want to see cats. So like, here we go. Who cares about knitting? I'm like, I
Come
want
here, Mavis. Come here, baby. I know it's scary. I know. I know. She does not like to be picked up, but
Oh,
this
this
is
is for
Mavis.
take one for the team, pretty girl.
Mavis, baby.
Oh my God, she's beautiful.
Will you scruff for me? There we go.
Oh
So
my
she's got
God, she's
spots.
so cool.
There's
Like,
her little face. So this
it's
is
interesting
Mavis.
because honestly, I'm sure some people are like, oh my God, you're scruffing. First of all, of course, it's natural. And second of all, as soon as you did that, she actually almost seemed to feel more comfortable.
Yeah, you can see she's calm and I'm not still scruffing her. So
Oh my God,
this
she's
doesn't hurt them.
gorgeous. Thank you so much for bringing
Yeah.
her notes.
All right, baby.
Thank
Okay. We've had her
you.
just
Thank
over a
you.
week, so she's still a little nervous around us too.
Oh, well, we'll have to circle back more to that because, of course, now I just have a million and one cat questions. But
Absolutely.
please go ahead and again introduce yourself. Let us know what it is that you do and how you found yourself here in this community.
Yeah. So I started knitting in college. It was one of those that I'm one of these people that doesn't sit still well. Like my fingers, I've got to be doing something. And with studying, I picked up knitting. And it was the classic, like for my age, a stitch and bitch book. Started knitting, fell in love with it. And so that means if I'm 42, I've been knitting 22 years. Um, and from there, I actually was in school for botany and I worked in a greenhouse for 20 some years. And this is kind of my second wind. So I am currently working at an automotive shop doing restoration interiors on old cars part time.
Oh my gosh. Wait,
So
you
I'm doing
actually do the restoration or you just work in the shop?
both. So
Wow.
I there's an upholstery division that's me, and so I will make the seats, install the carpet, install like headliner, so redo
Yes,
the
my
interior of
garage.
them.
I love that part when he would always go to the woman that would do all the upholstery. Do you ever watch that show?
Yeah.
When he would go, you know, and she would do all the upholstery for his cars and things like that. That was always so fun. So is it that
Yep. So
kind of like what you do?
yeah.
Cool.
So and it was one of those that my husband does cars. He's done cars all his life. Him and his good friend started a restoration business a few years ago. And it's really taken off. And they needed, like, all of their customers were doing full restorations and they needed interiors. And it was like, well, Sarah knows how to sew. So I am on a steep learning curve and it's fantastic.
Now, how
Such a
long have you been
part
doing that?
since July.
Oh, so it's like super, super
It's
new.
it's super new, yeah.
Okay, so prior, so you said you went to school for botany?
Botany, I did plants. In the end of 2022, I actually retired from the greenhouse business.
Okay.
I have a chronic pain illness, and anyone that's ever worked in a greenhouse, it is extremely physical labor. It's like having a farm. It's not for the faint of heart. And it was one of those that it just got too much with my illness. So I kind of retired and for a few years was focusing on just my bags and designing. I do knitwear design as well. And this year, the opportunity came up to start doing car interiors. And that just sounded like, why not? That's so cool.
Now, does he specialize in any particular type of cars? Because I have another shearing customer whose husband is just solely exclusively does Land Rovers, like the or Jeeps, like the old Willys, you know,
Hmm.
things like that. And so there's a specialization, you know, to what he does. So are you guys in any kind of specialization, or it's just old cars in general?
Old cars in general, think like 80s and younger,
Okay.
basically before cars started having all of the computer chips in them,
Right,
because
right.
that is a whole different process to reprogram. So think everything older than that. Like right now, I'm working on a 46 Hudson truck, completely redoing the interior, which is so cool. It is an Art Deco interior now.
Cool. Now,
Um,
were you with us last, or not last night? Sorry, were you with us when we were talking to Crystal Hyatt from Factory Girl Design?
no, I missed that one.
So you have to go back and watch the recording
Okay.
because her and I were kind of like freaking out, geeking out because her family owns a factory, and it's kind of like a metal factory, like all different gadgets. That aside, her dad is huge into antique cars and actually has to the scale of like having their own museum,
Oh,
and
wow.
they're really involved. So they'll also restore cars and then go through
Okay.
like Barrett Jackson, that auction.
Hmm.
And
Oh, man.
yeah, yeah. So you'll definitely have to go back and watch that. And I would love
Yes.
to connect the two of you together. You know, again, this is such the fun part for me of TDOC. And I feel like amazingly this year, unintentionally, we've talked each night about how different guests have kind of like intertwined or overlapped, whether it's things that they do, ways that they've worked together. So yeah, as soon as you started talking about that, I was like, oh, if you missed that one, you have to go back and watch
Yeah.
it. And I'm going to make a note, and I'll absolutely would love to connect the two of you guys together because I'm sure there's some fun conversations there.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Also, because I grew up, my dad was a race car driver, but then he built high performance machine engines. So, not so much in restoration in that sense, but cars have always been in my life. And then my husband, as well, probably has, well, he probably almost has just as many cars as I have llamas. So, I guess I can't say anything, but.
I don't honestly know how many cars we have. So,
I've only counted because at one point I'm like, there's way too many things that aren't doing anything. And of course, then that's when he'll reply and be like, well, are these all doing things? You know, and for the most part. But yeah, we have a rule like I can't say anything about him buying another vehicle because he can't say anything about me buying another llama. So,
it is an excellent system. We also partake in that one, and it works
oh,
wonders.
so how does it work in your family? Like, if he's allowed to buy cars, what are you allowed to buy?
Anything fiber related, plants he only questions me on because there are hundreds in our house already. So that's
Really?
the only one that he's like, really? Where in the world are you going to put that?
Well, I mean, I'm glad though then that obviously your love of botany and plants and you know that all of that is still there. I dare
Hmm.
say I do love plants. I've tried to get better. I used to say I could never keep them alive at all, but I do have one in particular that I've kept alive for a really, really long time. I get that does not sound like a big accomplishment, but it actually is for me. So,
Don't worry, because for me, I always told my family and friends, they come over and be like, "Oh, your plants are so pretty. How do you do it?" And I was like, "Oh, I have access to easy replacements."
so is that like as soon as somebody dies, you just move in another one and nobody even knows?
Yeah, you're like, "Oh, cleaning up for company's coming. That one's dead, that one's dead, that one's dead. I need four replacements."
Yeah, I did not do well with my poinsettias this year, actually, which I get
Oh,
they're ridiculous. I usually just keep them for color anyway, and I try to keep them alive. And then it's interesting when the leaves fall off and then the new ones sprout, and it's just this green plant that has absolutely no charm to it. But sometimes I have fun with that. But yeah, no, I actually have four still sitting on my half wall that they need to go, so I can appreciate that.
if
So
you are anywhere near a greenhouse that grows poinsettias, about beginning of November, ask to go in and see them. It is the coolest thing in the world to see an entire greenhouse full of color. That's the only time of year that everything is planned for color like that. Because,
well,
in the spring, you have Mother's Day, Easter, all of that. So it's all staggered, but you will have an entire greenhouse full of poinsettias in bloom.
but I mean, the unplanned question, of course, when the leaves fall off and then the new leaves come in, they're green.
Hmm.
So how did they get red?
It is actually to do with day length.
Really?
Shorter days. So you can, if you're close enough to a
Thinking that
greenhouse,
they dyed them in some way.
well, some of them are.
Okay.
Orange and blue is not natural.
Oh, okay. I've
It is,
never
it
seen
is a new
those.
orange, but
All right. I'm
a
just
couple of
talking about
orange,
your red variety.
yeah, no reds. So once the days start getting shorter, you can go in and take a picture of the same leaf every day, and you will see it slowly transition to red.
Interesting. Very cool.
Yes, if you keep one long enough, it will come out with green leaves. Make sure it's close to a light, and as the days get shorter, those
Right.
leaves will turn red.
Cool. Very cool. I really, like I said, I had no idea. So, and once the leaves shed and then the new ones came in, I was like, well, maybe there was, they do something to the plant, with all of the crazy things that we can do these days,
Yes, there are a lot.
modify genetics and all that kind of stuff. So, but, well, interesting. Well, I mean, I know they're a silly little plant, but at least they're color and it's beautiful. So, and actually, I have several kind of like greenhouse operations that I work for, farm stand type things. So I will say it is actually really cool. One of them in particular, they do like a lot of hanging, potted plants and things like that. And they're even in the spring when I'm there, though, the greenhouses are beautiful with all the colors. And so oftentimes I will actually take pictures of stuff like that because it is fun to see, that whole collection. So, but yeah, so I mean, and actually, now I'm wondering, so have you taken, I mean, I don't even know what direction I want to go in. See, I knew this was going to be with you because literally as we put like, like dabbler of all things, like there's so many different directions. So putting the car stuff aside, I mean, do
Yes.
you do that full time or is that part time or you're able to work it around when you're, feeling okay to do things? How does that work?
So I am scheduled 3 days a week for 6 hours, so it's very much part-time.
Nice.
But we have the flexibility that if there's a big project coming up, if I'm feeling well, I can do extra hours, or if I'm
Mhm.
having a rough week, I'll take the week off. So that has been such a blessing that I didn't have in the greenhouse because spring is make or break. That was our 100 days of hell. You're either
Right.
there 60 to 80 hours a week or you're not working there. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, then, and again, I mean, now is it your husband business or he's partners with somebody you said?
So our good friend technically started the business, but he started it with Ben,
Okay.
and they have hired on, and they went from 2 people to 3 people to four. We're now up to eight, so that's pretty cool.
Well, and I guess my point is, so you have a little bit of flexibility, seeing as how you're married into the business too.
Which
So,
is nice, and yeah.
well, yeah, absolutely. You have to have some sort of luxury to it. So with your botany background and your love of flowers and your work in the greenhouse, has that transformed in any way over to what you do with your fiber aspect of things?
Absolutely. So one of my big jobs at the greenhouse was putting together what plants we grew, what colors we had, and then also like the mixed hanging baskets. All of those were up to me to make. So I was painting with flowers and mixing and matching and coordinating colors, and that is 100% translated into the fiber world. And like the favorite part of making bags is like coordinating the inside fabric with the outside fabric with the lining and the handle, so you have that like cohesive look. And I do the same thing with, like, I have more fun planning projects and putting colors together than maybe sometimes making the project.
That's the creative part in all of us, right? It's
Yep.
dreaming it all up and, putting it all together in your mind. And then, sometimes the execution, you're like, all right, here we go. Um, but so your fiber aspect of things and I talked to actually again Crystal when I was asking her, in terms of when she took her love of knitting and then how it transformed over now her as well, she has a regular full-time job, but this is like a side hustle but yet completely branded and things like that. So for yourself as well, if it was something that you've been doing for 20 plus years, uh did you just juggle it with your greenhouse work, and then obviously it filled in the interim maybe between your greenhouse work and then what you're doing now. Like, where is it? I think part of my interest in talking to you in particular was for so many people that are out here that love their knitting, it's sort of like, how do you make that decision from having it be something that's your hobby and that you enjoy? Do I want to make it a job? Because look, we all know sometimes once you make something a job, then that sometimes I'm not saying it takes away from the joy of it, but it makes it a job. So I'm
Mhm.
curious to how you look at what you do and where you pocket it or put it in your life, how you describe it. Is it just really a hobby gone crazy? Is it something you depend upon? And then you do so many different things too. So we still have to get into that. So you obviously are branded. It's Strung Out Knits. Where did that come from? Oh my God, I have so many questions.
So it started with I love a project that you want. It's like reading a book that you just don't want to finish. It's you just want to string it along and savor it. And I love a knitting project that way, or any kind of craft project that way, that like you don't want it to end. And so that when I started designing, it was actually while I was still at the greenhouse, and I had reached that point of meeting with doctors and really starting in on my chronic illness and the chronic pain. And it was like, okay, the greenhouse is not going to be my future. It's pretty obvious that we're going to have to eventually step out of that. And that's when it's like, okay, what else do I love doing? And I have never knit a pattern as written. And it's not a matter of I think I know better. It's a matter of what if I do it this way instead? And I've always loved that. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to take that and just start designing. And so I've been designing for probably 7 years now. And it was just that, yes, it does become a job and it does change things slightly, but it was like, what do I love enough that it's worth the risk? And that was knitting and crafting.
Now, when you say as far as a designer,
Mhm.
so do you have written patterns that are out there for people on your Ravelry page, or is it just all through your Etsy, or how does that work?
So I do have, you can find me on Ravelry, Sarah Barca. And I also sell them through my Etsy because I know Ravelry isn't accessible to everybody. So I wanted to make sure I had it two places because if Ravelry is not accessible, I understand. You can get it at my Etsy shop too.
Do you feel like you have a certain voice with regards to, because honestly, I have to be completely honest, Sarah. I mean, I know that you do the bags.
Hmm.
I honestly don't even think I knew you did the weaving until we started talking. And then was something with paper, right? What There was something else that you were doing, a different kind of bag. It was not your normal bag
Oh, yes.
like this. So, I mean, I think my point is like I knew all these, yeah, so we can talk about that. I mean, so there's all these different, I just really knew you more as bags. Um,
Hmm.
so I really didn't know that you design. So are you self-taught? Do you focus on certain things with your designs? Like, what could people expect to find from patterns that you have out there?
So most of my patterns, I strive for that. Like, I just want to knit one more row, but I don't want it to end kind of projects. But like, you feel so satisfied with it while you're making it that you don't almost want it to end. And part of that for me is it looks complicated, but it's not. Like you feel like you're pulling one over on somebody, like, look how fancy this is, but it was really easy.
I do love things particularly that are simple but look very chic or look
Hmm.
now I know we're going to get into things a lot more, but I also want to give an opportunity that guys, while we're chatting, I mean, of course, in the beginning, I went over everything that we've got going on. Sarah also generously has a discount for you guys. Erin will drop it in the chat, but just as we start to now talk, Sarah, why don't you let everybody know what you have available for them so that they can keep that in mind as they're hearing about what you're talking about?
So from designing, I ended up doing project bags because that's another deep love of mine. I could be considered a bag lady. Um, so it was one of those that I started making bags with wool fabric because I'd go to festivals and I'd see all of that beautiful wool out for, I don't know, it was just all of this hand-dyed beautiful wool fabric. And I didn't know what it was for, but I'd always pick one up here and there. And I started designing. So the first bag I came out with,
Sarah,
um,
I'm going to cut you off just for one
yeah.
second before you. So, and Erin just dropped it in, but with
Mhm.
regards to the discount that you're offering
Oh,
everybody
okay.
as we talk about things, even though she put it in the chat, I just want you to share with everybody
Yeah.
because those that are watching the recording does not have an opportunity to see the chat. And I know that your discount is going to last beyond the 12 days of Christmas. So just share with everybody what you're offering them in terms of the discount, and then we'll roll into the many different things they can find when they go there.
Okay. Yeah. So if you go to my Etsy shop, it's strungoutknits.etsy.com. I am offering 20% off with the code LIYF20 through next Sunday, January 12th. And
And
that's
for
good
those
on
of you that are
anything.
new, LIYF, that's Long Island Yarn and Farm. We say it as life. So that's where that acronym is from, just because I know we do have some new people with us. So Life 20, that's going to get you 20% off. You said anything on your Etsy site, correct?
Yes, anything on the Etsy site. I do have my patterns there. If you purchase a pattern and you want it in your Ravelry library, just send me a message and I'll drop it right into your Ravelry library.
Cool. All right. Now go on as the bag lady, because that's what I really know you as.
So, yes, I started designing and then it was like, okay, well, designing isn't going to pay the bills when I have to eventually leave the greenhouse. So, what else can I do? And this is due to my mom. She had a sewing business when we were little. And we ended up with her old sewing machine and we would make clothes for our Barbies, bags, blankets, dollhouse stuff, you name it. So I have some background in sewing and I love a good bag. I am that person that depending on the day, you got to pick the right coffee cup to go for the day. You got to pick the right bag to go for the project. So you have to have options. And I decided I wanted to start designing bags as well. And I really wanted to use that wool fabric I kept seeing that was gorgeous, hand dyed in such a variety of colors. And I held on to them for years. Like, what can I do with these? And it finally was like, oh, that's going to be a project bag. Because we work with wool fibers. Why shouldn't our bag have wool in it?
Now, so in terms of the fact, of course, I'm like looking at the bag. So in terms
Yes.
of the, but so was that like your initial? Because I've
Yes.
seen many other bags from you with different
Mhm.
materials and things like that. So, like obviously you resource from lots of different places.
Mhm.
So I guess I would say again, like that's one aesthetic and obviously now hearing about the sewing background and all of that because that's what I was going to ask because honestly I couldn't sew to save my life literally. I mean, I always remember fondly. I took a home ec, it used to be called home ec. I took a home ec class in high school. I remember sewing like a Valentine's Day pillow. It was like a heart-shaped pillow, had like, just weird lace around the outside, kind of thing. That was the biggest project I ever managed. And now if I have a button that falls off, I can manage that by just incorrectly going in and out, in and out, in and out, and just until it just like won't possibly fall off. Otherwise, I'm like on speed dial for my dry cleaner who, will fix anything else otherwise. So, sewing is not a forte of mine whatsoever. So to me, it's amazing when I see something, crafted like this, because there's no way in hell I could do anything like this. So, but at the same time, like feeling this material, it's actually really interesting. It almost, it almost feels waterproof. I know that's bizarre, but it
It
feels,
is.
I was gonna say it feels like so farm life. We have these like there used to be these outback like slicker jackets that we would wear that had this like, and you could put like oil on the outside to protect it, but it
Mhm.
feels like this. And then, I mean, the material on the bottom seems like it would be leather, but I'm not sure. So
Yep.
I guess what I'm just curious about the different resources that you utilize, because again, sometimes people are not all for real leather, they do pleather. So just, yeah, just talk about all the different things and where do you get them from and how does that all work?
Yeah, so that particular bag is a laminated cotton, and I found that
Like what? I
so
didn't
I
even
found
know
them.
such a thing.
I didn't either, and it was a company I met at H&H in Chicago 2 years ago, and they were making aprons.
Okay.
And I was like, "You know what? That would be really cool as a bag." And they're like, "Oh, we make these little like zipper pouch for pencils and stuff, and this little like bucket thing for plants." And I was like, I am a messy person. This would be nice on a bag."
Very cool. Now, when you buy fabric, I
Hmm.
mean, I do go to Joann's, you know, is it in a bolt? Is that the right word?
It is.
Look at me go.
Okay.
So, I mean, when you purchase this fabric, for instance, like, is that how it is? Or, I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah. So most fabrics come in slightly different widths,
Mhm.
and then you order by yard. For that particular company, I had a 10-yard minimum, which for me as a small business is kind of high. But I was so excited about the fabric and the sheet that I was like, I'm
Oh my
in.
God, it's super
I'm
cute. You
sold.
guys can't look at that. Super cute.
But like the wool fabrics I use, I usually buy in 1 or 2 yards at a time, just because that's easier for me to manage on a small scale. But like the natural canvas that's on the inside of that bag, cost wise, I can offer it at a much better price to my end customers if I buy 25, 50 yards at a time and it comes in a roll so big that my husband has to drag it into the house.
Especially, I guess, if it's something that you know you're going to use on the majority of your stuff because it's the inside.
Right.
Yeah, and I will say, I mean, so it is, you know, the inside is that just sort of natural. It reminds me of like the color of like I don't know if I'm pronouncing it muslin or muslin or however
Yes.
you
Yep.
pronounce it. Yeah, and two big pockets on the side here. And I will say, I love your cute little, you know, a lot of times as makers, especially if you're doing apparel, it's usually like a little leather tag that has like your brand name on it or made with love or something like that. But this is a really cute, like wooden one.
Hmm.
So, I don't know if everyone can see that. So, where do you have those made? And do you put those on all of your bags?
I try to put them on all of my bags. Um, some of them, it's more destructive than it is cute.
Okay.
So some of the all leather bags, I don't want to punch holes in them for it. And like the washable paper bags I didn't want to punch holes in it again. So, and that's why that one is on the inside instead of the outside, because a lot of times they're on the outside because I didn't want
Okay.
to punch a hole in that water resistant fabric.
Well, I'm a big fan of wood, of course, so I think it's beautiful. I love it. So I thought that was a little bit different too, just to make note of. And then the bottom, is this real leather? Is it pleather? What do you like to utilize?
So when I started making them, and this is very similar shape to that. This is the original bag, which was my venture bag. So this is the hand-dyed wool and a leather bottom. And the leather I started out buying as, a hide. And then I found a place online that it's actually a furniture store, and I am buying their second.
Okay.
And I loved that I was buying their cut off pieces that would have been thrown away.
Oh, because that's what I was going to ask. So it's funny because in what I do, seconds, like second cuts, is like when you go back over shearing and you have little pieces, and those are no good, but they're also not utilizable for anything. And then the other day when we were talking about with Bat and Kill Fibers, Mary Jean Packer, and she was talking about first, seconds, and thirds. Somebody asked about what seconds was. So seconds in the fiber industry, is that just like little pieces that are left over? And then how easy is it to utilize that though? Because how big are the little pieces?
So it depends on, I mean, you can purchase tiny pieces, but for me, I talked to the company. I said, can I get like a 10 by 14 piece? And they're like, oh yeah, we have those all day long. Because they're used to cutting out big pieces of
Yeah,
fabric, or like for furniture, and everything outside of it was just scrap. And so for them, it was trash. But for
yeah.
me, I could turn it into a bag. And then from there, that's where my brain went to. I had so many scraps and I couldn't bring myself to throw them away. Because after I cut out that prime piece for the bottom of the bags, that
Mhm.
is when I started doing my B-side bags. And that is all leather, and it is all from the scraps that
Okay.
I had on hand.
And it was funny because earlier when you were talking, I swear this was exactly what I was thinking in terms of, I know what it's like to make things, and then you've got these end runs, right?
Mhm.
And then, crazy enough, that ties into what you're going to be doing for us. But that's what I was thinking, was like, okay, well, if you've got your mainstay, there must be something in which you're utilizing. And then, people are commenting in the chat in terms of, yeah, this is sustainability, trying to utilize all of your resources as best as possible so that there's as little, going into trash. And I realize some people might have feelings about leather one way or another. That's why I brought up the topic. And I
Mhm.
appreciate that and value that. But that's why I wanted to be transparent about the materials that you use for your bags. And then so the handles as well. Now, are they bought? Because I know you can buy handles. Do you make these? And are these out of the same material?
So it's a slightly different material because the handles are a little bit thicker for stability and processed a little different than like the soft, supple leather.
Okay.
And if I can buy them in scraps, because other companies need really long handles. And if it's 60 inches long and they need 48, the rest is just trash. So if I can buy them on those cuts, I'll do that. They're not always available, so then I have to buy a full like 60-inch piece.
Hmm.
But when I can, I'm trying to buy scraps from other companies because I have a use for them.
Right. I love that so much. And then at the same time, my brain is like, where do you even find that? Like, really? Like, where do you find, or how do you access these companies that have what is their trash? Because in my mind, they see it as trash, so they're not advertising, oh, we have trash, do you want to buy it? So really, so I'm just curious, is this just been your own sleuthing, reaching out to companies, or is there, because again, we've got a lot of makers here, is there an outlet or a way that people can access these kinds of things?
So I actually got the idea because I was on Etsy looking for leather. And I knew I wanted to support my small business by buying from other small businesses. So I was on Etsy looking for somebody else. And that's when I came across people selling seconds of leather. But most of them were tiny pieces, which still have a use. But I was wanting a little bit bigger to do with the bottom of my bag. And that's when I reached out to this furniture company that was selling little pieces. Like,
Mhm.
hey, you got bigger scraps? Because there's a
Yeah.
market. And as far as the handles, those I already found. But I there's another bag maker to me that is local, and she makes project bags and like tote bags and purses. But her main business is making leather chaps. And so the black leather on that bag is her waste from the leather chaps.
Wait, down here?
Hmm. On the bottom there, yes. She had buckets of it and she had no idea what to do with it. And I walked in and happened to strike up a conversation. So I was actually there to buy a bag. And we got talking about leather and machines and told her what I did. And she's like, "Oh, do I have scrap for you?"
I'm so sorry. I'm only distracted because I would just wanted a quick look at your tag from somebody who, I mean, of course, as soon as you said chaps, I'm like, oh my God, horses. But if I might, and for the
Yeah.
people that are also, I think, resonating with the sustainability of your projects, I'm not sure if you're if you have any other kinds of tags, but I highly encourage you, not that you need another job, to highlight that so much more. And what I
Okay.
think is super interesting is that, like, now I don't know if each bag has a story, but like I'd be that idiot that would buy this bag or a bag that utilized scraps from chaps more than maybe another bag you had. I just think it's interesting, in terms of
Yeah.
like the story of where the different things come from. And I don't know, maybe if it's grouped large enough, because look, I know you do not need to be labeling every bag individually, but I'm just telling you that the story that you're sharing here is so compelling and really cool to hear. So maybe just something to keep in mind, honestly, because
No, I appreciate that.
I think there's a lot of value to that. As and look, don't get me wrong, sewing and putting this all together and making a bag is a feat in itself. But I think that the message that you're sharing with us here is just, again, so much more compelling than just looking at a cute sheep bag. And I love it. And again, have so much more of an appreciation for that, because the time and the energy that you're taking to try to utilize things that are otherwise people's trash and then turning it into a bag that is absolutely beautiful is so cool. So
No, I appreciate that because self-promotion is so hard.
and I'm trying to scroll through these questions because honestly, they're flying. So somebody else is saying, "Agreed. It would be great to know." Actually, somebody's saying, "Yikes! I have a resource for you with
Oh,
regards
okay.
to weather." Um, the a question is, how do you use the B side bag with the just one strap on the side? Now, I'm not sure. Did they miss the other? Is there two straps, and maybe it was just
Nope,
not
there's one on the side.
okay?
So I sell them like this, and I love a bag that just sits next to you like a yarn bowl.
Okay, so it's like a
So
bucket
these,
bag.
so it's a little bucket bag. I'm sorry, that's a different cat meowing. Um, and there is an option to have a snap added here. If you wanted to say walk with it and knit, you could put a little snap there. A lot of people, and what I originally was using them for is just a bowl next to me while I was knitting. And then I would actually just roll it up and stuff it in another bag.
I love
And
it.
I had some people reach out like, no, it needs to close. And I'm like, no, this is how you close it. And they're like, oh my gosh.
Well, and I think somebody else had a similar comment in terms of like, how do you think of a furniture place? And, that's certainly what I asked. But for the most part, everybody is like, so cool. And, just in terms of, again, the resources. So I think that that's what I love, is that's definitely resonating with everybody here in terms of how you're finding, utilizing your resources, and then creating different style bags. And I'm like, and wait, there's more. I feel like but like a QVC commercial. So it does get crazier. So continue to please share the different types of bags that you've made.
Okay. And I want to point out, just because it's,
Yeah.
again, I can't let anything go to waste. So when you get some of my bags, this has a ring with leather stitch markers. And those are made out of the leather I cut off when I boxed the corners.
Wait, wait, wait. I need to see that. And so you have leather stitch markers?
Yeah.
No, like seriously.
So inside here, there's some that are just a little ring of leather, and then crocheters can't use those. So this is just a little leather piece, a little circle on a little light bulb. So crocheters can use them.
Wait, you
And
say
those,
crocheters can't. So is it for crocheters or knitters?
there's both in a bag. So there's a solid ring. Let me pull one off.
Like a jump ring?
Yes. that
Okay.
knitters can use. And then because crocheters can't use those,
Right, because
there is a little light
they need
bulb.
the latch one.
Right. There's a little light bulb on there. So this is the little leather ring.
Oh, so it's just the actual leather ring. Oh my God,
It
Sarah.
is a piece of leather.
Okay, so
These are
we
all
have to talk.
hand punched little leather ring.
I have
And
not
there
seen these.
and then included is also one for crocheters because I don't know, people who buy my bag do both crafts. So this is a little piece of leather circle
Okay, right.
and a little light bulb.
Okay, we seriously have to talk because I love that. No, no, absolutely. Because I always love different things, and um, I mean, I'm thankful everyone here is embracing. I know leather is sometimes controversial, and I appreciate that so much. But at the same time, for me, I'm wood, I am metal, silver in particular, but just wood, metal, and leather. Whether it's real leather, pleather, I don't really care. And those are so cool. I really, really, and for me, one of my earlier stories is when I started knitting, I was afraid to buy nice stuff because I was just trying to learn, right? And so I had like cheap needles, I had this like cheap acrylic yarn, and I had those cheap, like ugly, stitch markers, those little like plastic, colored rings. And
Yeah.
honestly, and this is a true, true, true story, as I was trying to get going with my project, like overall, I was just completely uninspired. And then I remember exactly, and I even had my own hand spun yarn at this time, but I was like afraid to use it. So I put that all down. I bought my lantern moon needles, which were wood, which I absolutely loved them. I bought
Mhm.
beautiful little stitch markers with like jewels and gems and fun little things to look at. And I used my yarn. And sometimes that's just key. So I love that. And yes, so we're gonna talk. All right, cool. Sorry guys. Just trying to do some networking business here and some exciting stuff because again, I had no idea the depth and breadth of everything that she does. And I think sometimes people themselves underestimate what they have and what they have to offer, and who it speaks to. And that's the truth. So yeah. All right, cool. Okay, so that's that bag.
That's that bag. So
Now let's
then
move on to other bags.
I reached out to, because I do have some bags with waxed canvas bottoms, and I reached out to them and said, "Hey, do you have seconds?" Well, they have from where they cut for certain customers little squares that are scrap. So I bought them and I made little patchwork bags out of their scrap waxed canvas. And these are just a simple little, like two skein sock bag, hat, shawl. So I have these, and these are all out of their scrap waxed canvas with that natural cotton inside. So there's a whole series of these. That was the kind of the next bag I did.
I love it. Now, are the bottoms all gusseted, right? For the
Yes,
most part,
again, because I love a bag that will sit up on its own.
it can do its own thing.
Yes, that you
And
could
so
just set it next
those
to you.
bags, are they all that tall?
This
Utilizing.
size, yes.
Okay.
So yeah, I sat down with all the little squares and rearranged them, and I was like, okay, what is a good size with all my little squares, and came up with this size, this pattern.
I feel like it's almost like quilting.
Yes,
Yeah.
very similar. Yeah.
Cool. Well, only, and of course I said that because, and I'm sure yes, Kelly's still here, but I know as many as we have knitters, crocheters, we have people that are quilters, there's crossovers in so many ways. So when I see that, that's kind of like what it makes me think of.
And then I had someone ask me for a my original bag, but big. They wanted a giant tote bag. So that's where I made these bags So it's just like the Venture ones, but they're big. They have a huge 6-inch gusset on the bottom. You can fit the kitchen sink in these guys.
Now, what's that
And
fabric? Because I love it. That is so my
this
style.
is wool,
And where are
and
you
this is waxed canvas.
again?
So the wool fabric, I have a place down in Florida that sells the pre-patterned.
Okay.
And then for these, I'm getting it's has a like the tick pattern, but I'm dyeing them myself. I hand dye
Of course,
different
of course you are.
colors.
Of course you are.
But I do love plaids, so I had to get some plaids as well because I
That
can't
reminds
dye a
me
plaid.
so much of the, do you know the Burberry brand?
Yes.
And actually, that's like my favorite, in case anyone wants to know. But the Weekend is like their perfume. It's my favorite perfume. But I love that brand in terms of their pattern there, and that reminds me so much of of their brand identity. I love it.
Thanks. And so if you're having a bad day, I've always had the mentality of put on some fun underwear. Like no one has to know you're having it will brighten your day. So on the inside of these bags, there is a fun pattern.
Oh my
So
gosh.
this one has mushrooms. And this is where I get into like the color coordinating and matching everything up. Like this is where I get geeked out on colors. So like this one has a fun little pattern of moons and moths, and they're all different. This one has like little knit stitches.
Now I'm assuming on your shop, so not only are you showing the outside of the bag, but you're showing the inside as well.
Yes. And that was my thinking behind the pattern being on the inside for some of them. It's
Mhm.
like you look all sophisticated on the outside and there's something crazy on the inside.
I got to tell you, I do not put that much input on my underwear. Not that anyone needs to know this, but I love the concept for sure. And I think that is always fun, right? Just having something like a little something that nobody else knows anything about.
Yep, whether it's your socks, some people do it with their socks. Like
Yeah.
my dad has been a realtor most of my life, and he would have the craziest socks on under his suit. Just a
I
little
love
secret.
it. I love it. Now I know there's still more because I know you
Yes,
pulled it up at first, and so I'm still waiting for us to circle to the completely unusual. Can't wait to yes. All right, good. Now
yes.
this is totally different.
So this is washable paper. And I came across this and I just loved the thought. And I see in the comments there asking, how do you clean the bags? So on the wool ones, it's spot cleaning, leather, it's spot cleaning, waxed canvas, the same thing. And a little tip for you on your waxed canvas, because when it moves and crinkles, it gets kind of that age look. Pull out your hair dryer and just slightly, like, don't burn it, but apply a little heat, and it's just enough to get the wax to kind of melt a little again, and it looks brand new again.
Wow.
But don't burn yourself. But I came across, um, and it was in, I think, Joann's. They were selling washable paper. I was like, well, that's really cool. So I took a sheet home. I threw it in my washing machine, actually washed it. I was like, holy crap, it holds up. So then I was like, how much fun would it be to have
Well,
a
wait,
paper
somebody else
bag?
is asking, and I am too. I don't even understand what's washable paper.
So it is paper that has a resin applied to it. So think of like a thick mailer, and that's kind of what this was inspired by, those
Well,
old
that's what it
envelopes that
looks
you would,
like. Yes, with that,
yes.
exactly. Exactly. Okay, sorry.
So think of one of those, but you applied a tree resin to the outside of it so that it has some protection, and now it can be washed, it can be crunched and squished, and it goes right back to shape. So that's how I was like, you know what? Yes, there are lunch bags that are made out of the washable paper. And I was like, how much fun would it be to have a little project bag? out of washable paper. So yeah, I'm definitely inspired there by
Yes, I
those old
love that.
envelopes where
Love that.
this comes off. And then again, these open up and they sit flat next to you. That it's just a little bowl out of paper.
So cool. With a little, like a gorgeous, not even a little, but a gorgeous leather handle.
Yes.
Ugh.
And if you wanted to dunk this in water, your leather will look a little water damaged, but you can get the paper completely soaked and wash it. And that's kind of where these came from. And I have three different sizes of these. So this is like a sock project bag. There's like a shawl project bag, and then there's a really big one for like sweaters. And I actually have worn these as a purse. So they have on them this little jump ring, this little D ring that you
Oh,
could clip a handle to and wear it like a crossbody.
I was going to say, I am all about, if anyone sees me, I'm all about messenger bags or backpacks. Honestly, that really is my jam. Or something big enough, of course, that I can put over my shoulder. But my everyday bag is a messenger bag.
And almost all of my bags will have these little D rings on them somewhere for that reason that if you wanted to wear it as a messenger bag or a crossbody,
Yeah.
grab any fun strap and click them on there and you're good to go. 'Cause, yeah, these, the really big tote bags hidden inside.
Inside. Okay.
There's that little D ring. And like these have again hidden inside. And you
Awesome.
can use that to do crossbody or you can use that to clip your notions to.
Now, you do not need another thing to do, but I'm just saying, do you
Yes.
do you sell, let's say somebody buys your bag, and so do you sell the longer, just like separate straps that can turn it into a messenger bag or a crossbody?
I do have some in the shop. I did not make them. I got them from another small business because I did not need something else to do.
Exactly. Hey, we all resource other things from other people, but I'm just thinking if I bought one of your bags, that would be something I would want to add on to it.
And they are different. I think I have one over here. It's a woven style, little clip on. So this is one of the big bags that I wear around. And this is one of the styles
Love it.
of
Oh my
just a
God.
woven and it clips right onto that D ring.
Do they come in different lengths, or that's adjustable then? Do I see
It
that? Is
is
that,
adjustable, yes.
love that.
So different patterns and styles and colors, and I restock them as they get low. But yeah, an adjustable strap that you can clip on there.
I love that. Actually, I love that even better than just a plain leather strap. That's so fun. So see, that's the accessory I would try to like jazz it up with as opposed to my underwear.
Same thing. You know, it's a little hidden like something something to brighten your day.
Exactly. And so, all right, is that the end of your bag styles? Because I don't even know.
Um,
I'm waiting for something else to get pulled out.
the only other thing is again from the chaps, I have little leather zipper bags.
So again, I'm done. You never told me these were chaps.
It is chap scrap.
I love that so much. Like seriously, because we still have one. Like actually, because of everything that you've donated, we still have another one of those. Now I think that's even cooler because that's just me and my background. So amazing. I actually would have sent
Yeah.
it home with Alex if I knew that that was a chap's bag.
We can get Alex a chap bag. But I actually made these when I was doing
Ah,
these because
yes.
again, I had weird scrap. And I was like, you know what? That needs a zipper pouch that matches.
Hmm. For sure. So people can either buy them together or separate, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I feel bad because well, I don't feel bad, but I know we're putting so much emphasis on your bags. So I think the thought that comes to my mind is like, because now we still have to go on. Like, wait, there's more, folks. We're not done. So But in terms of if you had to categorize what you do, so you do sewing and bag making, but
Hmm.
you do knit and you design.
Yes.
Is there a third category I'm missing? Like,
No.
okay, so they're just those two categories.
Hmm.
Okay. How much, like, which one, I guess what do you want to be known for? I mean, you could be known for both, of course, right? Uh, maybe it's hard to ask, do you love one child more than another? I don't know. I'm just curious how you manage both of those because they are totally different. The ability to sew and create the bags that you're doing, and obviously learning that as a child, from your mom having a sewing business. And then now it's carrying over into what you're doing with the upholstery and the restoration. And then yet the knitting, something that you picked up, college, and then have developed that and doing some designing. I mean, in all honesty, does one carry more weight than another? How do you differentiate the two? What do you want people to think of with regards to both of them?
I would say the bags is where I've put a lot of my time the last few years. It was one of those that I dug the rabbit hole and then dove in. And but the designing is still something I love and do as I can. And it has been so nice to have the bags to kind of support myself and give me the freedom to design when I have one ready to go. Because I don't want to be creating designs just to throw stuff out there. There are
Mhm.
so many designs out there right now that unless that's something I'm proud of, I'm not about just cranking out things to make things.
Mhm.
I mean, this is slow fashion. That is what it's all about. So it gives me the freedom to design and truly take that from a slow fashion standpoint of this is a design I loved making, I loved writing, and I'm proud to see somebody else make. Because that's the ultimate honor for a designer is someone to spend their precious time on something I wrote.
I love it. Well, I feel, I didn't want to not do justice to your knitting and your designing, but clearly, and not that your knitting and designing doesn't have thought, because honestly, we have not heard as much about that. But your talent for your sewing, your interest in utilizing resources, and the creativity behind all of that, I think is so cool. I really, really do. So
Thank
um,
you.
I absolutely love that. Um, so now let's add weaving in because we need another hobby.
Why not?
And I'm like, and wait, there's more. So this is like the best, QVC shopping, as seen on TV. So if, because I really have not said anything, so Sarah and I do have a collaboration in the works, and it was very, very last minute, which true to my form. And that was really because I just said to Sarah, I love what you do. Can we think of any ways to work together in that sense? I had no idea that she wove because I really just knew about her bags and her sewing. Really had no idea that there was designing. So I think, again, that's what's so cool about all of this. So she was just like, hey, this is something I can do, but I'm going to turn the cards over to you. So talk about this whole weaving thing and then how that gets into bags.
So again, I'm going to blame this one on my mom. And I have to say, my mom has been such a huge influence on me that growing up, seeing her do the things she did and be such an independent person supporting us that like the mentality of, you know what? I know how to sew. I can do a car upholstery. Let's do it. Like that no fear I totally got from her. And that's, I think, why I've ended up in so many different things. So she started weaving a few years ago. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's cool. I want to weave.
Wait, so you still have mom?
Still have mom. Yes. Oh, yes. So
How old is
she,
mom?
mom, oh, you're going to test my brain.
Okay, roundabout.
66?
What?
66.
Okay. And she
So she,
just
yes,
started, she just took up weaving a couple years ago.
I say a couple years, it might be 4 or 5, because she'll start something and then she'll do it around me and I'll be like, oh my God, that's really cool. So that's how I ended up with spinning. Like that's why I have 3 spinning wheels, is because mom did it first.
Time for this. Wait, what spinning wheels do you have? I have to know.
So I have an Ashford Elizabeth single treadle. That's the one I started on and was so excited to get it. And after several years spinning on that, a splurge for myself is I bought myself a Ladybug double treadle.
Okay.
And then when the e-wheels started coming out, I got one of those for flying.
Okay, you
Because
do
I
know I cheer for them, right?
do you?
Yes. I need to. Now, here's the thing. They need to be well, so the trouble is he is not a big personality. But yeah, so they have two llama. Well, actually, they had two llamas that one passed away, and then I helped them get another llama, and I cheer for them. That is my claim to fame. And so I need to get them on TDOC. But he's not he's a very, very, very behind the scenes, and his wife Emily on the other hand, and their adorable daughter. I don't know, so I got to work on that. But yeah, so I'm sorry, I'm just like, I cheer for them because I'm so excited because more and more people talk about the eel wheels.
Yes. And so that thing is the best for flying because I love the meditative of spinning the single. But when we get to combining and flying, I'm like, go, let's just crank it to 10, get her done.
I love it, I
Want to
love it.
use my yarn.
And I know I've got some spinners, that are with us right now too. So that's why I had to just, I mean, again, that's a whole nother monster, for sure. And I don't even think I knew that you were a spinner either, honestly. So that's cool. All right. So get back to weaving because
Okay.
what I think is still cool though is regardless, even if at 60, your mom is like, I want to learn weaving, right? Like, I mean, it's still a later life, like, let's do this, which is so inspirational in itself.
She is a badass. Like last year, she decided that she wanted to have an RV so she could go camping. And she went out and got herself an RV, and her friend went every 2 weeks the last 2 years. And she was just learning as she went.
Oh
But
my
she went out and she's like, we're going camping, babe. Let's go. She's like 5 foot driving this big old RV. It's amazing.
I love it. I love it. I'm like, now if you tell me she picked up boxing, I'm like, I just need to meet your mom. I love it. That sounds amazing.
So she started weaving, and I was seeing all the things she was doing. And it was one of those that it clicked in my brain that I have all of this yarn stashed for knitting. I have all of this beautiful hand spun from spinning. Weaving is another way to take that one step further. And then once you have the woven fabric, it's a fabric now. You can go one step beyond that and make bags with it. So
You
that
know,
was kind of where my brain went.
right now, I'm like, I should have worn my woven piece. I mean, I wore this, of course, but so for people who probably don't know, Alex, who was with me all this time, her mom Sally did my spinning for years and years, and I always say did because post COVID, she decided she wanted to completely dedicate her life back to her main interest, which was weaving. But along the way, we've got blankets, scarves, shawls, that she's woven for me. I had these shrugs that she's woven for me. And I've always said, like, for instance, for those of you that know I don't knit a lot, but I knit enough to know, I love the linen stitch because to me, it looks like a woven fabric. And I love the way weaving, creates that kind of fabric. So I just think it's so cool Now, what kind of a loom do you use? Because they can
So
be
I
huge and can take up as much space as a car. So I'm wondering if this is another negotiation between you and your husband.
Not yet, but I will say the room at my mom's condo that was mine when I came to stay now has a room size loom in it. And I have to like tuck my stuff off to the side and like I can just get to the bed. And there's this massive loom in there. And I'm all for it.
So what do you utilize, or do you utilize her loom? I don't know where she lives in relationship to you, or
She's about 2 hours south of me. So just enough that it's not easy to pester each other. But I have a shot baby wolf floor loom. So it's a four shaft, think small table size loom. And then I have a rigid heddle loom are the
and,
two that I use.
and so in terms of bags, because again, I'm assuming you're making fabric and you're turning them to bags. Is that stuff that you have already? I feel like there is more emphasis on the fabric that you buy, because I don't want to say it's easier, that's the wrong word, but it's like resourcing, just like I resource fibers and then I design the yarns, whereas you are resourcing fabric and then designing bags versus having to make the fabric and make the bags. So I think it's, not a sense of loving one more than another, but it's also just in terms of time and economics as well too, when something is being made completely from scratch. But I have not ever seen any of your woven bags, I don't believe. But so talk to us about that, show us some samples, and then please feel free to kind of, I don't want to say reveal, but are all your woven bags utilizing scraps? Like, how do you go from there? Because I don't even know what it's going to look like that she's making for us. I have no clue.
This is this is kind of a new thing for us.
Okay.
Um, and I say us because my mom loves to get involved, and I think it's fabulous when she
Oh,
helps me. So like right now in my Etsy shop, you can see weaving in there, and that's stuff my mom's done. So like I have this is a scarf she wove, and this is rigid huddle, and this is kind of what we're thinking for your bags, and this is what we've done before. So it is a very simple, basic weave, but the way you manipulate the yarn makes it look really cool. So for this, the stripes you're seeing are all the way it was warped, and the weft this way is all just one color. And so that's one of those that, like with the scraps you sent me, which I'm
wait,
so
have you
excited.
done woven bag? Yeah, I mean, I think you said that you did, and it doesn't matter
Yes,
one way or another, but you have done woven bags before, yes?
yes. We have done them with fabric like this, but then we have also done like this was someone else wove and we made bags with it.
Okay, so that's a woven fabric that you were able to
Yes.
resource, and then you made the bags.
Yes. And then we made a simple zip bag. Again, it
Beautiful.
has a nice leather handle. It's got two little pockets inside, but we kept it very simple because the focus is on that beautiful woven fabric.
Chiffon, yeah.
And so you sent me, and I love, again, using things that don't have a home, that just sits there. And we've done this with Wing and a Prayer Farm. We made shawls for her using all of her scraps of things she just had laying around.
Mhm.
And so, like this style with the stripes, we would take some of the scraps you sent me, and this would be your stripes in the weaving, and you choose a solid color as your weft, and you would get that same effect of the stripes
Well, now what I
with
think
the
is
weft.
interesting, so first of all, to just let you guys know, I mean, Sarah was like, hey, just like send me stuff you have laying around. Now, for those of you that have been with me for a little bit, we used to do something called Fiber Room Fridays, and that was actually Jill, my office manager's inception, and it was brilliant, and it worked really well for a while. I think maybe it was during COVID, and every Friday, yeah, actually it was during COVID because we were like dying. And it was a great way to like dig into the vault, as I would call it. And, I know so many people, again, I'm thinking of my dear friend Kelly. She's like, I love your end runs. She's probably dying right now that I sent you a ton of my end runs because she'll buy them all day long. And we do, when we go to shows, I'll have like end runs hanging around and stuff like that. But for Fiber Room Friday, it was such a fun way for me to dig into stuff that was laying around. And it was just posted on Instagram in my stories. People would pay us via Venmo, and I'd put things together, and it just worked really well. And it worked well for that time. And then I feel like we tried to bring it back again and it didn't have as much steam. So at this point, again, I have sometimes we get yarns that are broken. So they're purposely like, or they're perfectly fine, but the skein is broken, so I can't sell it as it's. I mean, it's kind of damaged goods. Although many of my knitters are like, "Who cares?" But it's discounted, so I mean, I just have so much. And Sarah was like, "Send me," and I remember in my brain because I am extremely like detail orientated, analytical, and I'm like, I don't understand this. Like, I don't know how much you need. I don't know what weights you need. So, what I think is so interesting is you literally just held up like a conglomerate of weights, and then yet you held up fingering for like the main. And that was my biggest question. It was like, does it have to match gauge, like, like, does it matter? And ultimately I just gave up, and this was me, and I'm just like, handed it all to Jill. I'm like, just shove all this in a box, because Sarah was like, if it doesn't work, I'll mail it back. And I'm like, perfect. And I do tend to have a lot of naturals, so I tried to throw some colors in there. So yeah, like I really had no idea what this was going to look like. I still have no idea. So I know that she messaged me today with some thoughts. And so that other bag that you held up that you had done, so maybe just share with us, because really what this is going to be, guys, is this is going to be like a FOMO thing, because there's only going to be a handful of bags, that Sarah's going to make. Now, mind you, if this works out to be something that I'm like, oh my God, I love it, which I'm sure I'm going to, but I only have so many extras. So I will certainly look to continue something perhaps. So it's kind of like a little experiment, I guess you could call it.
Yeah.
So going to be super, super limited. So there's going to be major, major FOMO, but you guys are still on the front end of it. So you'll have to stay tuned, keep in touch, stay involved. And then of course, ultimately when it's ready, when they're ready, we will let you know. And I will do my best always to just have TDOC people, get first crack. But I'm excited. So tell us a little bit more about like size and what you're looking to do, and again, I know the inside you talked to me about, and I don't know, there was so many fun things.
So this size we did is more like we were thinking like an evening clutch, like under your arm. So for the ones I'm making for you, I wanted to make something that would work for both. So it's going to be more like this size. So it'll
Okay.
have that nice box bottom so that you can use it as a project bag, or you can, crossbody it, put it under your arm. So thinking more this size, and it'll hold like 2 skeins of yarn in your project, or, phone, keys, wallets, notebook, pens. I think it would be great for those spindle spinners that have that, beloved spindle, and you put your fiber in there, you can take it and travel. Any of that kind of stuff. Makeup bag if you want. That it'll be a really great size for all of those things. And it will have on the inside that really pretty muslin natural canvas. Again, because the focus is going to be on the outside for this one. That I feel like if we had some crazy fabric on the inside, it might take away from how pretty these are going to be on the outside.
Point taken for sure. And then in terms of, because again, I love the adaptation to be able to make it a messenger bag, crossbody bag, but is it going to have a strap, like a wrist strap, are you thinking, or?
I'm thinking same thing. So it will have the option to crossbody, but then it will come with a little leather. So if you just want to put it over your arm, over
And
your
I meant
hand
to
and
ask
toe.
you, does that clip off?
It does.
Amazing. Very cool. So
And
I
these came about because I had scrap from handles that was only like yay long, and I'm like, I'm not throwing that away.
Yeah. And I love that you think so much ahead to have it be removable. Because sometimes, yeah, it's great, to just have it where you can carry it and just put it around your wrist. But at the same time, if you're using the crossbody to pull it off, put it inside, have it out of the way, kind of thing.
Yep.
So I'm not at all. There's no pressure whatsoever. But I have no idea, like, what are we thinking in terms of timeline? Just because I'm sure people are going to want to know. There's no pressure. I do not care. You could tell me it's 6 months from now because you're all on board with us. But just give me some idea because we haven't talked. And mind you, the USPS Postal Service did not help us at all because this
No,
yarn, I sent it like I feel like I sent it 2 weeks ago, and I'm not sure where it went to, but it only just got to you. Like,
you mailed it 2 days before Christmas,
yes, thank
and
you.
it toured all of Ohio, and then was like, oh, she's in the middle. Okay, great. We'll go back to the middle. And I got it 2 days ago.
It's crazy. I mean, so again, this is not my fault. And so for any of you, as you're waiting for your packages, we cannot control what happens sometimes. It's not even like it got rerouted to another state. It just toured Ohio.
It toured Ohio. I was so worried it was lost because there'd be like 3 days in a row where it'd be just say in transit. And I'd be like, oh gosh, we're never going to see this box. And then it would show up somewhere in Ohio. And I'm like, that's not. And then it would be in transit. And I'm like,
Well, I'm glad it finally arrived, of course. So again, no pressure at all. And I do mean that. Just some idea of timeline. Have any idea? Can you help us with that? Sorry.
no, it's okay. Best guess is it could be a couple months to get all the weaving done. And then it's about a month to have everything sewn and put together. And then I think maybe 3 months. If
Okay.
I get excited and obsessed, it might be sooner. But
Please just let it fit into the rest of your life because the beautiful thing is that there's always something, right? We'll create another event, we'll do something. I'm just excited to have been able to send you a medium to
Mhm.
utilize, and at the same time to be able to utilize this platform to be able to share all the different cool things that you do. And more importantly, people can turn their appreciation towards you with the lovely code that you've given everybody. Remember, guys, that is life 20 to go visit Sarah's Etsy site. And all of these cool things that you've heard about and things that you've seen, you can certainly turn it over and show her love for what she's shared with us tonight. And that's what this is all about. So I love them. I mean, I really, really absolutely do. And again, what I love is so much more, right, of an appreciation for what you do, whether it's your side hobby, your main hobby, just even learning about other things in your background, and how you incorporate, your love for what you went to school for, but then yet from what your mom, and that's the other thing too, like, really, if I could not do anything to hold this all together the entire night, based on yesterday, at the same time, I know that you have been with me for years now, and everything that Kimberly and I have done together based around our moms. And while you're so blessed to still have your mom with you, like that whole story resonating, and then the fact, like, I'm gonna hold it together. But the fact that the bags that you're doing now are going to be like a joint project, I'm assuming, with which you
yep,
did not tell me that. You did not prepare me.
I'm
So doing
sorry.
that with your mom, like, again, it's just how all of this ties together. And it's beautiful. And again, it's so unplanned. And that is just how much, like, all of this fiber stuff, just ties us all together. And I know you've been with me on my journey, and I know you've been a supporter and a friend in that sense. And I'm just so happy to be able to elevate you and be able to let you shine in this and be able to show your amazing talents. And that's truly, I truly mean that.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I was nervous, but I am so glad I did this because I love spending any time with you. And this was just like, well, wait, I can hang out for her with for like an hour or more. This is great.
Well, this is all about you, and that's why I'm like, oh my gosh, that's what I love, and you better get to Ohio this year for sure, to
Yes.
be able to like, see the new babies and all of
Oh
that.
my gosh. Yeah.
It's yeah, I mean, again, anyone who knows me, I mean, I do this because I genuinely love people. I love everybody. I love meeting people. So I've just been in such admiration for all of the cool things that you do and the talents that you have and balancing it truly, right? Between it being a hobby and trying to have it as your side gig and understanding also, which I think is important and why you didn't delve too much into it, which is fine. But like, look how we all have to pivot and change based on what we are physically capable of doing and
Mhm.
finding things that can work for us, satisfy our creative souls, help to pay the bills a little bit while working with what our bodies give us. And I think that that is also so important to be able to celebrate that as well. Because while I'm really sure that it was hard for you to close, your greenhouse chapter and probably when you were not ready to do that, but at the same time being able to take fiber and knitting and spinning and weaving and fill that gap until then, your husband dragged you off for sewing upholstery and restoration cars. But hopefully that's a great thing to be able to be doing that, with him as well, and to be able to, be a part of that. But using talents, right, that your mom gave you from when you were a kid, it's
Yeah.
so proof positive that we never know where life is going to bring us, right?
We don't. And it was so funny when I started doing the car stuff. It was one of those that, yes, shifting from the greenhouse, I thought I was going to die in a greenhouse. Like that was my world. And it was devastating to have this like stopping point of, nope, that's not what you're meant to do anymore. And, when I started doing the art, the car upholstery, I had the owner, Eric, he came up to me and he's like, what if this was where you were meant to be? And it was just like blew my mind that it was like, yeah, I helped run a greenhouse business. Now I know how to do like all of the things combined. And it was one of those I feel that way in the fiber world too. That like, yes, I had to give up my greenhouse world, but with open arms, the fiber world is was like, absolutely, come on in. The water is fine. We will take you. Come in, my child.
Oh, absolutely. And your mom must be so happy.
She is, it's so funny because when I was a terrible teenager, like terrible. Like my mom and I couldn't be in the same house. And all of a sudden, somewhere in late 20s, 30s, it was an absolute role reversal. And, we're constantly like, did you see that new pattern? Oh my gosh, did you see this yarn release? Like we're such companions and compatriots in what we do. And she was so cute because she's like, did the yarn come? Is it lost? Is it there? Send me pictures the moment it arrives. So I'm like laying everything out and like snapping photos, like, okay, mom, here's what we have in this weight, here's what we have in that weight. And she's so excited to get her hands on it. It's amazing.
Are you an only child?
No, I'm the middle.
Oh,
I have an older sister and a younger sister.
okay. And are either of them involved in other things like this or?
Yeah. So my mom didn't actually teach me to knit. She is a true left-handed knitter.
Okay.
Like when she does a shawl and it goes this way, the pattern is written and mine goes this way. Like
Okay.
she when she does cables, she has to reverse it in her brain. I I don't know how she does it, but she wouldn't be able to teach me how to knit, and I didn't even think about it. When I wanted to knit, I was just like, well, I'm gonna go get a book and I'm gonna figure it out. But both my sisters also. So my older sister, she just one day was like, you know what? I want to make a dice bag for my D&D dice, my Dungeons and Dragons dice.
Oh, I'm like, what?
So yeah, Dungeons and Dragons. And she picked up knitting, color work in the round. That
Okay.
was her first project. And my mom and I both were like, do not tell her it's hard. Let her be.
That's
Next
great.
thing you know, she's doing brioche, and we're like,
Oh,
don't tell her.
that's amazing.
And my little sister, she crochets. She does normal crochet and Tunisian, and
I was
she's one
just
of
gonna
those that
ask. I love Tunisian crochet. I love the look of that.
it is gorgeous, and she can just freehand design with it, and I just stare at it like it's a foreign language. Like, I don't know what you're speaking, but that's gorgeous.
So that is so cool that I've now asked this in the 11th hour. So, and all three of you clearly have, gotten some sort of that creative gift, from your mom. So you're all embracing it in different ways, and I'm sure all
Hmm.
interacting in different ways, but
Yep.
it's still really cool to hear how much you are collaborating with your mom, and in particular on this project. It means the world to me.
Yeah.
So, with that, before I forget, because again, as we're on the 11th day, and as I've said to everybody, things just keep getting longer and longer when you think I would just be like, let's cut this. But and to the credit again, I've been so entranced. I haven't looked at anything because I also know Erin is helping me to keep track. So looking at our participant list, we're actually, it's 45, so that means we're basically at 42. So we're still at 42 strong, going. It's been holding. I am just, I don't know about you, I'm blown away every single night
Yes.
about the people that are with us, and so many people that I know. So before I forget, do you find yourself more on Instagram, Facebook? What are your handles for each of those? How can people follow you so that when you get done, I want you to be able to see the love that everybody can give you for being a part of this?
So I am mostly on Instagram, and it's Sarah L. Barca, Barca. If you look up Strung Out Knits, I also have that Instagram, and you can direct it to Sarah L. Barca. I was trying to manage both at one point, and that was pure chaos. So now you get my daily life chaos and my business chaos and all of the cats and everything all on the one.
It's so much easier. And I've learned over the years too, it's like that is what it is, right? Like we are everything. We're not just one
Yeah,
thing. So why not blend it all together? And maybe some people might not want the cat stories, but they're going to want the bag stories, and they're going to get all of it. And they can choose
yeah.
to just scroll or whatever they like. And I know Erin dropped that in the chat, so that's great. So please, guys, go ahead and give Sarah a follow. Now, are you on Facebook even? So I tend to be that way too. I'm there. I don't look at it as much. I'm trying to do better and better each time. But so are you on as Strung Out Knits on Facebook or?
You can find me on both on Facebook. It's one of those that I'm really bad about checking both, but I do it cross posts. So you'll see them on both. And if for some reason you really need me and I have not answered on either one, send me an email.
And that's, I'm the same way too. Like I'll sometimes find a Facebook message just like a week old, and I'm like, I'm so sorry. And I feel like if people
Exactly.
really, really want to find us, there's ways that they can do that, of course. So, but at least that's good. So I hope that you're gonna see some love that way for sure. And don't forget, guys, to take advantage of the code that she provided us all, Life 20, and that is good through next Sunday.
Correct. Yep.
All
Through
right.
the 12th.
Cool. So pick me a number. Um, Remember, every night my guest picks a number, and then that person is going to win a $20 store credit to shop with us at Life. That will go in after we're done with the 12 days of Christmas. And also remember, guys, we have rewards points. So for all of the shopping that anyone's been doing this entire time, you get 5% cash back in the form of store credit. I encourage you to develop an account, because then as you shop, it actually tells you this is what you have in your account. If you don't set up an account with us and you just shop as a guest, we can still get credits to you, but it is a lot more work on our end. And at the same time, when you're shopping, the system does not know to tell you what you have. And this is our way of saying thank you. We want you guys to be able to utilize that. So, with that, pick a number for me, ma'am, and then I will do my old fashioned scrolling down and we will land on that person. So, no regards, pick whatever number you like.
That's Zoe.
Is that the dumpster kitty?
Yeah, that's the dumpster kitty. The universe provided me with this beautiful animal.
I love it. I love it.
So I'm gonna go with lucky 13.
13. Wait, why is that lucky for you?
It it is just a number that pops up in my life, not in a bad way.
No, and my mom was born on Friday the 13th.
Was she?
Her birthday was May 13th. Yep. That's why I asked.
May 17th.
Yep, she loved, and
Yeah.
she loved the 13th, and whatever vacation or wherever we went, it's a little morbid, but we always had to visit like a cemetery, like a historical cemetery or, something like that. But yeah, she loved the 13th because she was not only born May 13th, but it was on a Friday the 13th. So
Oh my gosh. So yes, definitely lucky 13.
I love that. Amazing. All right, let me see what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. Jillian Gale, it's you. And I know Jillian had a lot of comments tonight as well. Living on that Nassau Suffolk border, not too far away from me, but excellent. So, Jillian, you've got that $20 store credit with us. So, congratulations. She's been a long time lifer, so that's also fun. But it's also been fun being able to give new lifers prizes as well. So, thank you for that, Sarah. So, guys, before I give Sarah the last words, because sometimes people have to fight me for it, I get it. I want to remind you guys that tomorrow night is our wrap up party. I am always welcoming anybody to join us that might be local. But aside from that, I hope all of you will join us on Zoom. I certainly will send out the invites to any of our guests if they want to be along with us for the ride. Remember, for each of our guests, I'm going to have a trivia question. So it's kind of just a wrap up. It's really just a lot of nonsense, and there better be tons of stuff going on in the chat. I just want to see everybody sort of talking and, going back and forth about the different things that they enjoyed. It's lots of feedback, it's lots of fun. But each guest, I will come up with a trivia question, and you're going to get those fast fingers ready. So whoever answers that question first in the chat, we have tangible gifts. I don't even know what they are yet. I'll come up with them. Maybe they'll be related, maybe not, to what that guest is, but we will have tangible gifts that we will send to you. So that's something to look forward to. And then, of course, above all and beyond everything else, we will then be drawing for the keepsake basket. And you've been with us all week, so you know all of the wonderful things that are in this basket. I will encourage you, too, that if you don't end up winning the basket and there's things in here that you're interested in, please hit me up, let me know. That's what that's all about too. So many of the people in here do retail some of their items, and then if they don't, we can direct you to ways to be able to get those kinds of things. And if you just want the Girl Scout cookies, you know where to find those. So keep in touch, and please be sure to join us tomorrow night as we wrap this whole thing up. I know many of you are like, I don't want it to be over. And you know what the weird thing is? I really don't either. Tuesday night, I'm going to be like, what am I doing? Like, I'm not Zooming. I'm not really going to know what to do with myself either. So thank you guys for everything. And I see the chats going on. So Sarah, you've got the closing words. I can't imagine there's anything that we haven't covered, although Lord knows. Oh, we didn't, you know what? I yelled at somebody prior to tell us quickly about those instruments and how that fits
Oh,
into your life.
yes.
Somebody asked about those, and I was like, "You can't ask. We haven't started."
Okay, so my mom plays piano. I've played piano since I was tiny, and I took lessons all the way through high school. So I still play, but I desperately wanted to play guitar. And so my parents got me a guitar, and for years I tried, and my hands are too small. I cannot hit the chords. So during the pandemic, it dawned on me maybe I could play a smaller instrument. So I have two ukuleles that I love that I would not say I'm great at, but I love just strumming chords. It's soothing for me. And then the middle one, some of you are such a great eye. That is a dulcimer. And that was inspired because my grandmother plays.
Very
So I
cool.
wanted to learn because she loves dulcimer and she plays. So that was 3 years ago. We took her to the Great Smoky Mountains on a vacation, and she helped me pick out my dulcimer. And so I'm learning how to play.
That is so cool. And this is such a dumb analogy, but the people that got me started in llamas, Lars and Gail Garrison. Gail was a recorder player, but not like the third grade, like,
Yeah.
you know,
Right.
like she was actually a recorder player. And where this leads to is that, so in naming llamas, and when I met them they had over 125 llamas. So every year when the boys were born, boys were named after apples because they had apple orchards, and the girls were all named after musical things, and it would go down the alphabet, so it would start from A, go to Z, and start over again. So we had there was a llama ukulele that I remember. And even more importantly, because I could not tell you what the hell a dulcimer was, but now I know because I remember a llama named Dulcimer, and I had no idea what that
Mhm.
was. So I love it. So I've learned something. I was just like, it's a musical name, but that is so cool. And again, the weird thing is that's about your grandmother, and then our knit along this year is bringing in grandmothers. Last year was mothers, this year's knit along is grandmothers. So
I
again,
love that.
completely God smacked about how this all ties in, and I just absolutely love it. And thank you for bringing us into your home and into
Yeah.
your life and into your world and sharing just a little bit about you.
Thank you for having me. This has been amazing, and I'm so glad to see all of you here with us.
Wonderful. Well, guys, tomorrow night is the end. It's wrapping up. I hope you'll join us. Sarah, a big thank you for being willing to get on board and do this with me. I hope it's done you justice. I know everybody here has been so amazed to learn about everything that you do, all of your talents, because you're not kidding when you say you dabble in everything. It's inspiring, it's resourceful, and it's amazing. And you should be nothing short of proud of everything that you do.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Much love to you. Much love to everyone else. Have a great night, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thank you.